you'll have it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what you're going to see. Hi, welcome aboard everyone.
Thank you.
Come on in. My name's Steve. After me you're going to meet Mark in the control room. Any questions please ask. If you've got cameras, please take photographs. There's no secrets left, but there's some really good photo opportunities in here. You've come into an A-class submarine built, actually designed back in 1943 and designed to operate in the tropics. So we've got a long range. We can do 10,500 miles on one tank of diesel. They're more habitable. They put in air conditioning because she's operating in hot climates, forced air ventilation, big hatches for ventilation. Once again, good now for tourism. Normally a submarine hatch should be circular, you're going through feet first. But on this one you can just walk through, so that was forward thinking, wasn't it? Hole in, you just come through, forget that, that would be the side of the submarine. The front door of the submarine is up there, that's the forward torpedo loading hatch. But do be aware that these hatches are always open here and in the after end, so if you don't like it, you can always get off. Loading torpedoes, they come in on these railings here, and underneath your feet there, under those lids, you take that off, there's a trench 3 feet deep, and it allows the nose of the 21-inch torpedo to go down, 21-foot torpedo rather, to go down and come up horizontal, and then with manpower on that traveller there, they'll actually pull 1.5 tons worth into the tube. It's all man-job. It's quite amazing actually. And the torpedoes we carried are the one you see there. That's the Mark 8 torpedo. Amazing weapon. Came into service in 1927. It went out of service in 1988. It's got diesel engine, it's got shale oil and 805 pounds of high explosive. And there will be 5 of them in this compartment as reloads for the 4 in the tubes you see there. Down aft, we have 2 torpedo tubes and we have 4 reloads. Very well armed submarine. The canoe there is just to give you an idea, Royal Marine Commandos operate submarines a lot, and that's the canoe they would have used back in the 1970s. We're a diesel electric submarine, so we have 224 electric cells, 112 forward, 112 aft. You'll see some of them when you go through this passageway and the second compartment and look down. Each cell stands 4 feet high, weighs half a ton, is full of lead acid. And they power our submarine underwater. We can only stay underwater for 36 hours. It's our biggest weakness. Effectively, after 24 hours, you've got to get air into the submarine to feed us and feed the diesels. When the diesels are running, they're recharging the batteries, they're recharging the high pressure air bottles. And the high pressure air launches torpedoes and it blows water out of the ballast tanks, allowing us to come back up. So it's very important they stay topped up. This is an escape compartment. If we have to swim out of this submarine because she's not coming up anymore, we do it from here, or we do it from what we call the aft ends at the very end, where you will see an escape hatch, air outlets. These bins with the red line, in there will be life jackets, goggles, and as technology improved, the immersion suit. Training for escape was done in that yellow tower you see in what was HMS Dolphin. That was there that was used from 1954 till 2009 to train in submarine escape. The initial training was teaching you to breathe out, because all you did was you actually left here wearing your clothes and a life jacket, nose clip and goggles. You flooded this compartment. You had a ladder in here, one at a time. You'd go through that hatch. That hatch would open because you filled this compartment full of water, and it equalised the pressure. And the training was just get through there, stand to attention, breathe out, and up you'd go. Then the immersion suit came in, which is what we have today. Today it covers you completely. You don't have to worry about breathing. You shoot up like a rocket, and today you can escape from 200 meters, 600 feet in an immersion suit. But in our Navy, our submarine Navy, they say stay with your submarine, wait to be rescued. A small submarine will come out, flown out in an aeroplane, put on a ship, brought to you, and you'll go 20 men at a time back up to the surface. So that facility was shut down in 2009. So we don't do that anymore. Right, living on the submarine, we will see a shower. Because it was designed for the tropics, they thought that's a good idea. It was a lovely idea. It's just not practical. Water's rationed. We wash our face and hands, clean our teeth, that's it. Change your clothes once, because you only get one drawer. You'll see on the deck one drawer. One man, one drawer. And the longest patrol this boat could do was 6 weeks. So you can imagine the smell in here is pretty bad, because you've got you've got oils and food going off because it's everywhere. But after 4 days your nose breaks down, so we don't smell each other. So that's a boon. But you have to go home sooner or later, so your mum, your girlfriend, your wife have to truly love you, because you never get these out of your skin. What you're going to see now is the accommodation space getting better as you go through the ranks, of course. You'll see a wreath, a memorial to submariners who passed away since the service began in 1901. Right home. Any questions before you
I was just
start?
going to ask you, where in the tropics were you based?
Tropics. In the wartime,
okay, yeah.
in the Second World War, it was Perth, Western Australia, or
Okay.
Trincomalee in Ceylon, as was, and there was some submarines in Brisbane in Australia as well.
Anywhere along the in West Africa or anything at all?
Well, probably, but I actually don't know about that. There would have been some in Mombasa, because
East
the
Africa.
Navy we frequently went to Mombasa after the war,
Okay.
so there would have been some presence there for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Fore ends control room.
Please enjoy the rest
Forward
of the
hands
submarine.
shut, anchor
Thank
it.
you.
Forward top tail loading, hands shut, and gone back to ring. Forward ends closed up at half second.
You would have been in one of those. Was it he was in
around for 10 years.
During the 70s now.
Was he?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Pot of tea, baby.
I feel like you're in a coffin, don't you?
Bitsy block, yeah! Jammy devil.
Look, I'm here for breakfast.
I wish my family could get grub as good as this. They're venting the sewage tank. Anyway, it's baby's X tomorrow.
Wherever you've got spaces. That one between the two bulkheads.
What are you thinking about the boat? Oh, sweethearts and wives. Yeah. Sweethearts and wives. May they never leave.
Divers to the gun tower hatch in 5 minutes.
Coming in, I'll tell you how the control room works. I'm going to ask you to squeeze up around.
Divers to the gun tower hatch in 5 minutes.
Roger. The Admiral's cat has left a little something for us again.
I'll get it cleaned up, sir.
Come on in and I'll tell you how the control room works.
Next time when I come out, I'll go check for the paper. Stick it on top. Okay.
Keep 53.
You get it
All day, 53.
Yeah, good. You'll have to squeeze up in the corners. Yeah, squeeze in all the corners.
Trick or treat smells it.
Yeah, we made all that, yeah. Dad used to make the rings for them.
I'll go back to looking.
Yeah. So you've seen the screens on our boat.
Yeah, is that what, yeah.
These are the old ones. That's what they used to look like.
Sit on here
On
and
your
have a look.
boat, some haven't
Not when I work, not my own boat, when I work.
Yeah, I can see it.
That's the pretty ones we can't pass it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see outside here, definitely.
I was just saying, I thought my bunk was small.
Just look through
That's
them.
sort of-
Are you serving?
No,
No,
private.
Yeah, you learn to sleep really easy.
How's that funny?
Come on in. I'll explain how the control room works. Found everybody? Not quite.
No, it's okay.
Come on in and I'll explain how the control room works. Come on in, sir. What are we doing? Any more?
53.
Okay. Anyway, welcome to the control room. This, as the name implies, is where the ship is commanded from, where it's sailed from, and where it's fought from. So we're standing beneath, we're in a compartment which is beneath the conning tower, beneath the fin, as we call it, which is up there. So, okay, used to be a vertical ladder here once upon a time, but we kept on losing too many kids, so there you go. Anyway, at the top of the fin is an open air bridge. So when you're on the surface, officer the watch and all the lookouts are up on the open air bridge. So the normal routine for a diesel electric or submarine like this that is to spend the night on the surface but under the cover of darkness, and then as daybreak approaches to submerge and spend the daylight hours pottering around on your electric motors around your patrol area, thus denying the enemy the use of the ocean above. That's the general idea. So when you're on the surface, you're running under diesel motors and you're recharging the batteries and you're compressing air and everything else. Anyway, so if we're on the surface at night, and there's no really young kids, are there? No. This would be what it was like in the control room. So not to ruin anybody's night vision. And then as daybreak approaches, the captain will make the decision to submerge. So first thing to do, send the hands to diving stations. It's annoying if you're fast asleep at the time.
Yeah.
But that's the general idea. But there you go. Anyway, so yeah, as we're submerging, as the water's halfway up the conning tower, the officer of the watch or the captain will be the last one down, closing the hatches behind them, and they'll come and take charge in the control room. Right, I'm just going to, firstly I'll explain just how a submarine goes underwater. We are standing here in what's known as the pressure hold. The pressure hold, just think of it as a tin can, and you could quite clearly see the round shape of the tin can as we're here but in the control room. Yes? Right, what gives a submarine its completely much larger and different external shape are 7 huge salt water tanks. 3 downmost of either side and 1 underneath. Those salt water tanks are open at the bottom, so what's known as free flood, and at the top that there's a flap light valve, which is called the main vent. Now, can we just swap places? Could you just come through here?
Keep 53.
That's it, well done.
On there, 53.
Right, if I open up these valves, just here, that opens up the main vent. The air escapes out the top, seawater floods in from underneath, and the submarine sinks. When you want to surface again, with the main vents closed, you open up these valves just here, and then using these levers, you're blowing high pressure compressed air into those tanks. That pushes out the seawater and the submarine surfaces again. Slightly more complicated than that in practice, I will admit, but there we go. Let's talk about a few of the jobs. So, as we're diving, you've got sat just here what's known as the forward planesman and the after planesman. The planesmen control the hydroplanes, which are those wing-like structures at the front and back of the submarine. So, like that. Anyway, it's their job to control the angle of the dive. Ideally, that you dive at about 5 degrees, and you've got this highly complex bit of instrumentation just here, showing you what angle that you're diving at. Anyway, when you reach the correct depth, which in this case is 55 feet, which is periscope depth, it's their job to keep the submarine at that level. This is a more complicated job than you'd think, because as the temperature of the water around us alters, as the salinity alters, as people move around inside the submarine, as stores get shifted from A to B and everything else, it all affects the trim of the submarine. And you're here, sat on watch for up to 4 hours at a time, and you're having to make constant small adjustments in order to keep it at the correct depth. Right, the submarine is steered from, just move that silver lever in front of you, sir, and you're, ma'am, and you're now steering the submarine. A bit harder than that, but there you go, that's moving the rudder. So while we were on the surface, you were getting your orders through the voice tube, just there, and you're told which compass bearing to steer and how fast the engines need to go. The officer of the watch would be sat on that leather seat just there, and he'd be using this periscope, now we're underwater, and he'd be using this periscope and he'd be scanning the horizon and the skies 360 degrees looking for enemy activity. If he sees something, then lower this periscope. Okay, take somebody and move this electric chair, which turned him and the periscope out of the way. It's not going down, you're okay. Anyway, this periscope would be lowered, and the skipper, and I move you just there, would come to this other periscope, and the skipper would be constantly raising and lowering this periscope. Right, the difference between the two, that's known as the search periscope, and is like a very good pair of binoculars. This one, by contrast, is monocular. The reason being is as it cuts through the surface of the water above us, it's only about that wide. And the idea is that it's difficult to spot and creates as little wake as possible, thus helping avoid a detection. Anyway, he'd be here and he'd be looking through here and he'd be constantly, as I say, raising and lowering the periscope, and he'd be looking at the ships around and he'd be calculating how far they are away, how fast they're going, which direction, what bearing they're sailing on, and trying to double guess their movements. And if they're worth a target, then he'll be calling out a whole a whole string of figures which are fed into that 1950s vintage computer just there, which will calculate the angle which you have to fire a torpedo in order to intercept a ship going at such and such an angle at such and such a speed. Torpedo control panel is that one with the red lights on just there. It shows, the red lights show you which tubes are loaded, which are ready to fire, and allow you to fire them. Right, so think you'd also have a person doing plots just there. If there's multiple ships around, you'd have the navigating officer working off the chart table just here. So it's quite a crowded place when at sea. It's made a lot worse by the fact that all the toilets are at that end. So anybody who lives at that end who wants to use the toilet has to go backwards and forwards. And when it comes to meal times, where you have to collect your knife, fork, spoon, plate from that end, go to the galley, the kitchen, which you'll see on the starboard side, but in a minute, and collect your food, take it back to your mess deck to eat. So you can imagine what this place was like. Anyway, there's another group behind now, so I'm going to take you down that way. Kids, count the number of toilets for all 65. You'll see the galley, which is where the two chefs on board prepare 4 meals a day for ship's company. 24-hour operation.
Oh yeah, more looking.
That's tiny. There must have been little people. No, you think airplane toilets little? Jesus. You're having a hard time going there, Chris. Show in there to get shaped together. Oh, really?
Oh, there's again. Could have sworn they were potatoes. Where's the cocktail with them kidneys?
out with that.
Very interesting, isn't it?
I mean, when's the next harbour water bus thing, Jimmy?
That was very nice, wasn't it? You there, folks, as well. Yep. Kathleen, come here quick. She's gone. She's on next ship. I know everyone wants to get to kill.
Different.
Hey.